Hi, family. You know, the reality of peer pressure is this. It only really is negative. And peer pressure as an experience only really is negative when you are forced to be less than who you are in order to find community and find friendship. That's when peer pressure truly is negative. And that's the only time it really is a negative experience, because life is about the constant pull and push of influence and peer pressure. It's about the idea that we are wired for interconnectedness. We're not wired to be islands all by ourselves. We are actually wired for interconnectedness. And because we are wired for interconnectedness and interdependence together, all relationships are going to be about the influence that we have on each other, the way we pull, the way we push, the way we steer, the way we draw. All relationships are going to be about some level of peer pressure. Handling peer pressure, therefore, just isn't about keeping away from bad influences. Handling peer pressure is about knowing yourself regardless of bad influences. Handling peer pressure is not just about resisting them, but it's also about remembering you. More importantly, it's about remembering you independent of them. So how do you build? How do you build that type of, how do you build that type of strength? How do you build that type of internal compass, especially from a young age, especially from a teenage age? How do you create that type of community around yourself? Well, let me suggest 5 things. Number 1, find values and aspire to values that pull you higher. About the way you think about self, about the way you think about the world, about the way you think about spirituality, about the way you think about how God thinks about you. Find values. Values are those principles of life, those principles that guide your life when no one is around you. Values isn't who you are in public. Values are who you are in private and in public, where you are one and the same, where your word and your thought and your life come together as one thing. Find values that pull you higher. Number 2, find causes that push you further. Martin Luther King once said, until we don't really understand what it means to live until we understand the things that we are willing to die for. Jesus said it first. Jesus said that the person who selfishly keeps their life will lose their life. The person who keeps their life and their journey and their skills and their stories and everything about them that is beautifully human, the person who keeps that to themselves will lose their life. But the person who loses their life in something bigger than them, the person who loses their life in causes bigger than them, that person will find their life. So find causes, and you're living in an era of so many important causes that have to do not just with your spirituality, that have to do with the very importance of life itself, that has to do with the way we live, that has to do with the way we see each other, that has to do with the way we treat each other as human beings. Find causes that will push you further. Number 3, find community and find mentors that will affirm the best in you, and especially mentors. How do you find mentors? Well, there are people around you that you admire. There are people around you that you see just achieving, not just materially, but just in their thought and in their word and in the community that they build around them, and how people are so much better because they're around them. And those are the things that you aspire to yourself. Go to those people and ask if they can be your mentors, if they would be willing to mentor you. And I guarantee you, they will be honored and say yes. Find community, find people that think in that way, and link yourself to that community, because those people and those community build values that keep you in the midst of pressure that pushes you to be somebody else that you're not, that pushes you to be something that you're not, that pushes you into conversations that you're not really about. Number 4, avoid people that encourage you to be less because they don't want to be more. Listen to me. Avoid people that encourage you to be less because they don't want to be more. Don't never seek to be around people that cause you to be who you truly aren't, and that is the price you have to pay in order to be around them. Because this is the truth. They will never see the excellence that you represent. They will never recognize the brilliance that you truly are. Why? Because the eyes never see what the heart is not willing to recognize. The eyes will never see what the heart is not willing to recognize. So avoid people who encourage you to be less because they don't want to be more. And number 5, never apologize for being the person that God has created you to be. Listen to me, never apologize for being the person that God has created you to be. Paul says in Romans chapter 12, 1 and 2, therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercies, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. And this is your true and proper worship. Then he says those immortal words, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. This age in which we live now, right here at the beginning of this new decade, this is the age of transformers, not conformers. This here is the age of transformers and not conformers. So if you are going to be involved in peer pressure, let it be positive peer pressure. Let it be the type of peer pressure that creates communities with values that pull you higher, causes that push you forward, mentors and communities that affirm the best in you. Being around and avoiding being around people that pull you away from linking with people that want you to be less because they don't want to be more, and finding those like you who never apologize for being what God has created them to be.